because you don't observe hundreds of people just sitting on the street begging, you think we don't have a homeless problem, and it's not true.
We have to get homelessness on our radar screen. We have to acknowledge as a community that we have fragile people among us.
St. Charles County is the most prosperous county in the state of Missouri and is one of the fastest growing counties in the United States. It also has a rapidly growing homeless problem that few of its residents know about. If you don't look for it, you probably won't see it.
Homelessness is very, very difficult to observe. It's really not observable because if you are homeless, you try to remain unobserved. You want to fade into the woodwork, blend into the crowd.
Paul Lambie is mayor of Wentzville, which was called Missouri's boomtown in 2008. Because of the economy, the boom has quieted to a whisper.
If you just stop and consider, there's probably at least 10,000 construction-related jobs or people that are no longer working here, and just in St. Charles County. 2 years ago, when the city of Wentzville built 1,500 homes, that employed roughly 3,000 people. Well, home starts today in Wentzville are not 1,500, they're 300. So just locally, we're not employing 3,000, we're only employing 700. So you have families without health care benefits, somebody gets sick, it can wipe them out financially, and they can be homeless in a matter of weeks.
The few people who are aware of the problem mainly fall into two groups: those who are faced with being homeless and those trying to help them.
Most of our homeless folks are not quite as needy as, and the depths of the problems don't tend to be as severe as you typically find with the street homeless in larger metropolitan areas. The flip side of that is the need is much more known in municipal areas and visible, and that visibility of the person on the street corner tends to tug at heartstrings more than the mom that's going home to her car every night with 3 kids sleeping in the back.
Dottie Castigar works for the Community Council. The organization tracks homeless data for the county and tries to keep track of who's helping who.
Probably one of our first to offer homeless services out here has been the Salvation Army, and they offer a 32-bed shelter for families as well as single women in O'Fallon. They do not take single men. We also have several agencies that offer services like homeless prevention, rental assistance. So when a family is kind of on the brink of homelessness, they try to keep them in their houses. One of the major players that offers that service is St. Joachim Care Service. We also have domestic violence shelters. We have Our Ladies Inn, which is a shelter for pregnant women, and we have Youth in Need, which is a youth shelter. We also Crisis Nursery helps with children under 12, but they cannot house families. They can just take the children. There's a lot of gaps in our system. There is no services in this county for homeless men. That particularly concerns us because with the construction industry, we have a lot of men that have lost their jobs. They're living in their cars and trucks because there's no better solution.
Every year, most counties in the United States participate in a one-day homeless count.
The homeless count is an effort across the United States to take a snapshot of the number of homeless people in the community. This involves sending street teams out in the community to collect information about homeless people and where they may be staying, looking at encampments, as well as data collection through local agencies and food pantries and churches who may be sheltering the homeless.
We're volunteering out here in the community, looking for encampments, looking for signs of homeless people surviving on their own, and from that we're recording it by taking pictures, taking notes, filling out forms, giving that back to community council, and they're able to get hopefully somewhat an accurate count of the homeless in the county and the Tri-County, because they're also doing this in Warren County and Lincoln County, to help the homeless, whether it's immediate exact services that from homeless that we find, or by having a good count of how many are in the community, means hopefully better funds that we can get from the state and federal government to help with the problem. We came upon some police and we told the police what we were doing, working with community council for the homeless count, and asked them if they knew of any encampments. They told us about a gentleman who's living next to this storage unit and how he has a tent set up here, sleeps here, goes to the storage unit, cleans up, and changes clothes, and then he goes to labor ready to try to find work. So he's able to make a little life for himself here, with a place to sleep, place to clean up, and then he goes and tries to make it throughout the day.
In January 2009, 830 homeless people were counted. In 2010, the number had risen to nearly 1,100. That includes people living outdoors, in shelters, in motels, and doubled up with other families.
Good job, Lucas.
Teresa is one of them. Teresa found herself without a home when she left her live-in boyfriend in the hopes of finding a better life. At the time, she had a 3-year-old son, and she was pregnant.
Through the grapevine, I got led to Our Lady's Inn, and that was the maternity home for pregnant women and their children. So stayed there for a year. It was a year-long program. All the girls called it the Ritz-Carlton of shelters. So I mean, that's what it was like. We had our own rooms. We had bathrooms, our own personal bathrooms. We had sinks in our rooms. They supplied us with all of our diapers, shampoo, deodorant, anything that we needed. Anything, they supplied us with it. So we're very blessed.
After a year at Our Lady's Inn, Teresa still needed help finding a place to live. She found St. Joachim Care Service. Miriam Mahan is the executive director.
St. Joachim primarily has committed, we have committed ourselves to address the homelessness in 3 counties, St. Charles, Lincoln, and Warren County. Our purpose is to bring the families in, stabilize the family by establishing them in a motel or a place where they are safe, and then work with the family through intensive case management for a period of 24 months.
St. Joachim helped place Teresa and her 2 sons in one of their transitional homes. They currently have 5, but would like to have more.
The care service is making great investments in providing transitional housing for families that are not necessarily the chronic homeless, but the families that, for whatever reason, they have found themselves in the streets, and now they do want to be able to sustain themselves, but find it very difficult to achieve those goals.
I wanted a better life for my son, but I didn't have the money for a better life. You know, it always takes money. I'm not a homeless person. I just made mistakes in life, you know.
Teresa is a great example of a good candidate for transitional housing. A young woman with a child, expecting another child, trying to be self-sufficient with multiple problems that was keeping her from achieving the goal of having a safe, sanitary, and secure environment for her and her children.
Teresa pays some bills and is learning to be independent. She's in college and attends church regularly. She says she doesn't know where she would be without the organizations that have helped her.
They gave me a fresh start, a brand new start to life, you know, and to be able to do that at 25 years old with 2 kids is, you can't describe it. Being thankful just doesn't seem like enough.
Things haven't been as easy for Doug. Since he is a single man, he didn't qualify for any of the services that Teresa did.
3 years ago, I had a $15 an hour job, and I had a 401k, and I had benefits. I took some time off to be a stay-at-home dad, and then after that, basically I had a forklift license, and I had a warehouse job and all that kind of thing, and that just wasn't available anymore.
Doug soon found himself with no money and no place to stay. That's when he found Minister Paul Cruz. Cruz operates a donation-based ministry for homeless men called First Step Back Home. He tries to help the men who otherwise fall through the cracks of the system.
We started the ministry 4.5 years ago, primarily designed to help the single homeless men because there's such a gap in service, for the single homeless men. No agency would help. Partial payment per week, then you can pay like half and I'll pay half.
Cruz spends $30,000 every year on motel rooms for homeless men. He gives each man 3 nights while they try to find a job.
Basically, it's a crisis intervention. Get them off the street, put them in a motel, give them a plan and a program on how to find a job, work with other agencies and anybody else that want to help get them a car or some kind of transportation. We usually get bicycles for those that don't have cars, and I pay for gas for those that do have cars. And then I provide cell phones, so when they go apply for a job, they have a phone number that the employer can call them back on.
Since he started working with Cruz, Doug has been able to get a job working 30 hours a week and is currently living in a motel.
I mean, I've got a high school diploma, I've got some college education, I've worked all my life, and, honestly, if I didn't have help right now, and honestly, I'm somebody that wants to work, and I hate the fact that I had to ask for help, but I appreciate there's somebody like him that does that, thank God, because, I would be living in a box right now if it wasn't for him.
What keeps nonprofit agencies in St. Charles County from being able to help men like Doug? Money. Rather, the lack of it.
Right now, in St. Charles County, the primary barrier to services is funding. State and federal funding formulas are based on area median income. They don't reflect the growing bottom portion of the community that has a need for services. And so as a result, our funding streams are much lower than in comparable counties. St. Louis City gets about $56 million in funding. In comparison, our county's total financial funding available was about $1.5 million for all the agencies. It's a gross inequity. It's not a little inequity. We could do amazing things with $3 million. I'm not asking for $56 million. I understand that the homeless in St. Louis, the problem is a lot more entrenched and there's a lot more deeper long-term need. However, we need to have a little piece of the pot. And at this point, we're not getting that. And I think that's a key legislative issue, making our federal and state and local officials aware of that.
Awareness is everything. If St. Charles County residents aren't aware of the problem, there can never be a solution. There has to be a solution.
Would you like your father, mother, daughter, brother, sister to having to find shelter on a 30-degree night outside in the cold, being subject to the elements? We wouldn't allow a dog to live in conditions like that. Why would we let a fellow human being suffer like that?
When you can do something to stop the suffering, you can change lives. You can change the future.
The difference that I'm going to make in my children's lives because I did have that organization to turn to, but then you look at the next person who didn't know where to go, who had nobody to reach out and help them, and that now their whole family line could be homeless. That's reality when it just took that one person to step out and help them.